You know, back in the days, this is what happened. I had an amazing roommate back in the days when I lived in Fort Lauderdale while I was going to school. And his name was Reggie. He's passed away now. But for when I first met Reggie, I met him at the Parliament House in Orlando. And we kind of did a little hookup thing. And he told me how much he liked me. And we spent a week together. And then he said, let's move to Fort Lauderdale. And so that's how I ended up in Fort Lauderdale. Then I went to school and all that stuff. But to make a long story short, it's very hard for, I guess, gay men who fall in love easily or really care about somebody or has watched somebody for a long time and have feelings for them and don't know how to approach them. But for some reason, me and Reggie connected very well. But I was always looking for something else. It wasn't that I wasn't looking for Reggie, I was just looking for something else. But I'll never forget, about 10 years ago, I got this very strange phone call, and I really never answer private calls or unknown numbers. That's something I usually don't do. But for some reason, I picked up the phone and it was this woman. And she asked me, was my name this and, and that? And I said, yes. And she said, I am Reggie's sister. And Reggie is in the hospital. And I said, oh, well, what's wrong with Reggie? What's going on with him? I said, I haven't heard from Reggie in years. She said, well, Reggie is dying. And I said, from what? And generally, it's typically, most of the time back in the 80s and 90s and whenever, you would always hear gay men dying. Usually it's from AIDS or some complications of AIDS. And she told me that Reggie had some kind of a terminal cancer, and it had nothing to do with AIDS, but it was something that he was born with, and he had been fighting it his whole life. That's why he was so skinny. I never thought anything about it. I just thought because he was 6'7", and that was just the way he was. But anyway, he got on the phone and he told me that all those years that we lived together and we hung out and everything, even though we hooked up a few times at the beginning, that he's always loved me. And and it kind of, the phone, I was silent, and he says, "Is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, why didn't you tell me back then that you loved me? And maybe things would have been different between us and went further." But I ended up falling in love with someone else that was what I was looking for, and the person I was looking for was looking for me. So, um, and he said, well, he didn't have the courage. He said he tried to in so many ways. And I just want to say this, that if you love somebody, you love them. Just take the chance and tell them, and then you'll deal with it. But don't go years knowing that you love someone and you live with them and you see them dating other men or going out doing whatever they're doing, and you don't say anything. But I'll never forget that on his deathbed, he called to say that he loved me. And I hadn't spoken to him in 10, 15 years. So I'm thinking, what is this? So this goes to show you, sometimes we're going to have to get the courage to tell people that we love them or care about them when we're with them. And that probably saved everybody a lot of headache. And to this day, I still wonder to myself what would have happened if he actually would have told me back then when we were living together and we were always hanging out together. I always felt something. I mean, well, you think of a hookup. I mean, and mainly when hookups are good. And Reggie was pretty good. But anyway, but when you're thinking about that, you don't think anything of of a serious relationship, because once you have your room and he has his room and you're living in sort of like a roommate situation, it's sort of like there's the drift right there. There's the separation right there. But anyway, I just want to say that I am glad Reggie is, rest in peace, my friend. And I'm glad he actually told me that he loved me. But I wish he wouldn't have told me on his deathbed. But a few days later, his sister called me back and told me that he had passed away. I went down to the funeral, and it was just something I will never forget. I will never forget that whole odd conversation. It was the strangest thing. But anyway, tell people you love them when you're with them. If you love them and you care about them, just take the chance and tell people that you love them and see what happens. I know it's going to be hard, but try. I wish Reggie would have told me back then. Things might have been a lot different for a lot. The four of us, I will say. But I'm glad today that at least he's in heaven and I am here, and he brought great memories to my life, and I'll never forget Reggie. And rest in peace, my friend. Until next time, that was one of my stories, y'all.